Okay, so when it comes to the Trickstar deck, the deck likes to stun your opponent and pretty much burn them to death. So the monsters aren't very powerful. You got Candina and Licorice, which Candina will search out the Licorice, and Licorice will do the main burning every time you search because pretty much everything in this game searches. The deck plays a lot of hand traps, a few actual real traps depending on what variants, but the best variants play a lot of hand traps to stun your opponent, do little bits of damage, and just like wear your opponent down. The trap Reincarnation is really good for like disrupting your opponent. If you time it right, you can take out your opponent's hand and remove all the cards he searched and give them like brick cards, and it combos really greatly with Drawn Lockbird, like literally leaving your opponent with no cards. But yeah, they play. The issue with the deck is that it doesn't have a high power ceiling. All the monsters are like the biggest monster is 1800, which is Candina, and you find that sometimes if your opponent summons any monster, even like Fairy Tale Snow, which is 1850, they'll struggle to out it. But players have started playing cards like Scapegoat, which are really good because it lets you spam a bunch of link monsters and put really big monsters on the field like Borrowload Dragon, which has been crazy and ever since it's come out. So yeah, that's pretty much the Trickstar deck.
So, Trickstar now. Trickstar is a very interesting deck, especially because it does something no other deck right now can. The engine is very small. You only play 15 to 16 engine cards, if we count Scapegoat. The deck is very consistent. Like, you have your 9 Candinas, and your Candinas is a perpetual engine. Once you have one Candina, you can always bounce it back with Licorice, bring it back with Reincarnation. Then, also, in my opinion, one of the best cards, and very underrated, is Lilybell. Lilybell is such a scary card, because the perpetual burn damage, you don't even notice it. On like the classic searches of like Terraforming for Resort and a draw, you take 1200 damage. So that wraps up over time. And sometime in the mid game, they can always just go for Lilybell, attack you directly, even do like Holy Angel combos and just kill you out of nowhere. So the deck is very good at what it does, obviously. It supports a lot of non-engine cards very well, which at the moment it does the best. So it can prepare you against matchups like Spiral for that reason. That's also why I would say the best matchup of the deck is Spiral. On the other hand, the deck of course has some weaknesses. Like at the moment, the deck has some troubles getting over big monsters, especially like equipped with Last Resort maybe, or like bringing it back with like if they attack you, bring something back with Rescue. So, but it's manageable. You can still play Scapegoats in the deck, which is like a 1-card link combo with like Ningirizo and Ib, or go into a Borrowload Dragon. And the way you can do it, like it's very good because you have your engine, you will have every game, but on top you have a lot of power cards which the deck uses quite well. The worst matchup I would say is Magicians, because Magician can play in a certain way that they can just like summon Time Star, get Astrograph, keep floating, so they always have a big monster on field, and you struggle a lot of that, and sometimes you can't keep up with the pace of the game. But in general, Trickstar is a very good choice for this event, because we have to beat Spiral. That's the thing.
So I think Trickstar is coming into this as a bit of a rogue choice, but that's not necessarily a bad idea. With the dominance of Spiral and the prevalence of hand traps everywhere, they put themselves in a great position where they aren't always shut down by hand traps, and they have no weakness whatsoever to things like Ghost Reaper. So if both players are being shut down by hand traps, the Trickstar player is often in a better position, because when they're not doing very much, they're still doing more than a Spiral player that's not doing very much. On the other side of that, they don't always have enough cards on just the Trickstars to fill out a deck, so they have to be playing slower things like Scapegoat, but if they can make those turn around into advantage with things like Borrowload Dragon, it can really crush you quickly. Now the other thing they have going for them is that they can play Droll and Lockbird along with Reincarnation, and if they get that off and they lock you out with no hand, there's no way you're getting back into the game. Or they can play the incremental burn damage game, where they can capitalize on the popularity of Destrudo in other decks, where you only have to deal 4,000 damage, and with things like Licorice and Light Stage, that happens very quickly.